Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventive supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio and at revolution.radio. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. Our producer is Thomas Becker, and our guest today is Tina Bird. And Tina Bird is a UFO extraterrestrial experiencer and researcher, researching the paranormal, and don't have a bio on her. I was involved with a show about a month ago, but I don't have any information. So I have to have her tell you all about her experiences and what happened and her involvement with the various extraterrestrial beings. But I did hear her speak, and I know she's very articulate and fascinating. So, Dr. Lessin, sound check, are you with us?
Oh, yes. Entertain us, Tina.
Okay. Tina's going to entertain us. Okay, Tina, you're coming from the UK. What time is it there for you?
It's just gone 1 o'clock in the morning. It's nearly 10 past 1 in the morning in the UK.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you for coming on so late. Hope you have a lot of coffee. So tell us about yourself. And so you're an experiencer, and I see that you've been at some conferences with Nick Pope and Eric Von Daniken and Grant Cameron and Travis Walton and Mike Barr and a couple other people. So what's going on in your life that you're getting involved with the UFO community?
Well, for me, I just think it's been a lifelong issue really for me, but it wasn't till you're older that you realise what happened when you're younger or throughout your life. And I reached out to the UFO community a few years ago now when my partner became ill, and that's when I got introduced to David Hodgren from the Birmingham UFO group, who investigated my case and documented my case. And I was put in contact with David because there's no real helpful contactees or abductees here in the UK. And so I reached out to Gary Heseltine from the UFO Truth magazine, and he put me in touch with David Hodgren. And it really went from there, and I went to like a world conference, if you like. I went to the Awakening in Manchester and other UFO conferences, and I got to meet lots of interested people. Other people I've met very quickly along the way is Kathleen Murden. She's from the States. Francisco Carrera, he's from Exopolitics in Portugal. Andrew Johnson here in the UK, he talks about the Star Child and Crystal Skulls. Carl James, he talks here in the UK about the darker side of Disney. Sarah Adams from the Gaia channel. Steve Mayer in the UK, he runs The Awakening. Alan Foster and Grant Cameron, who also does the stuff. I met him twice, I think, here in the UK, and he does stuff reporting on the White House and all the things
Tina,
they do.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tina, but I can hardly make out what you're saying. I wonder if there's something we can do to make this better. Oh, Mad Painter, are you able to hear us? Is there anything we can do to adjust it?
I'm hearing her
Tina's
pretty
coming
good.
in very wonky.
I'm hearing her pretty good.
And you're coming in wonky. Everybody's wonky. We're all wonky.
So hang up and
Sasha,
call
could
back.
you speak?
Janet, hang up and call back.
Yes. You're going to call us back?
No, you hang up and you call back.
Or I will hang up and call back. Okay.
But you can continue talking, Tina.
Okay, yeah. So and that's how I met other people that visited like the UK, and I became more interested in finding out what had happened to me and why. And you get to meet loads of interesting people who wrote books and that over the years, and they're more interesting in real life. Like Eric Von Daniken, I've met him very quickly. Travis Walton, he's another abductee. Nick Pope, like Janet said, here in the UK. Robert Fleischer, he deals with exopolitics. I've met him from Germany. And Don Schmidt, I listened to his talk. He's from the USA, I believe. And yeah, many more people along the way. But
what did you find out about your story? What awakened you? What was going on? What did you find out initially, and what have you learned since about the message in your contact with extraterrestrials?
Well, I'm back right away, but go ahead. Yeah, tell us your story. Go ahead.
So it wasn't until you get like realization. So when you're taken and you're younger, you don't really realize what's happening to you. And then you get like a moment of realization and like the penny dropping. For me, that was probably about 2002, between late 1990s and 2002. And I think the message, if there is a message from them, is I don't think they like our behaviour, and I just think they use the earth as some kind of DNA melting pot, which they either take from us DNA and semen and samples and eggs and repopulate other planets, or they use it for their own benefit. We are vessels for our souls, really, and I think they've been at it a very long time.
Yeah.
So I think they take.
At some point you had experiences and decided to talk to other people about that, how was that?
So what happened when it all came to a head was I never told anyone my whole life, and it wasn't until I was in my late 40s, mid to late 40s, last few years. What it was, I woke up. I shouldn't say woke up. I kind of came to on in my bedroom, and there was like a bluey green light coming through the bedroom wall or from underneath the floor. I couldn't really tell where it was coming from. Illuminated the right hand side of the bedroom, and I couldn't move. I was just frozen. My eyes bulged forward, and my partner had gone, and about 2 feet from me, between the bed and the wall, was a glowing white little being about the size of an 8 to 10-year-old boy, or it'd be a little bit smaller, and it had like a round head in the center of its neck, very close to me. It bent forward at a weird angle where it hits would be, to look at my bedside cabinet, and I had like some stuffed teddies and a couple of pictures of my huskies, and I couldn't quite see the front of its face, and I think it realised that I was awake, and it obviously just put me back, and it all went bright white light, and the next morning, the next thing I know, my partner's back in bed, and he sat up, right bolt up next to me, and I looked at him, and the first words out of his mouth, he was holding his neck, was, "My throat hurts, and my bottom hurts." That's the first words out of his head and out of his mouth. And I thought, oh my God, do I tell him what I saw last night? And I was waiting for him to tell me that he'd had a bad dream or he remembered something freaky, and he didn't. And his health deteriorated more and more. I became unwell. And so I went to see my GP, which is a doctor here in the UK, and was becoming ill. I was having chest pains, stomach problems. My partner also, but he was more affected. He was losing weight, and the doctor took blood from him. And blood test results said that all of his liver enzymes were off the chart, and that he was going to send me for a procedure where they put the camera down the throat to check the stomach and the throat. So I went to have that, and my partner was also booked in a week later. So we both go to the local hospital here in Southampton, and we go up onto the ward, and the same doctor that saw me, he was a professor, laid me down on the bench, and I had the camera down the throat. I was awake. And in the UK, there's like a TV screen. So when you have it done, you can see where the camera's going inside your body if you want. Mm-hmm. And the team were doing their procedure, and you could see this black stuff just wherever the camera was, in my mid-chest or top of my stomach. And he said, "Oh, we'll get a sample of that." I didn't quite look right. He said, "And you've got like an ulcer." He said, "We'll we'll send you the results. Give me some medication." He said, "I've got a huge ulcer. It shouldn't really kind of be there, and some marks inside inside your body." So he took the camera out and gave me some medication, and off I went. Well, a week later, I went back to the hospital because it was my partner's appointment this time, and it was the same professor. And he said, "Oh, hello, Tina. Welcome to the ward." He said, "What are you doing back here?" I said, "Oh, it's not me you're seeing today. It's my partner." And he said, "Oh, two of you both live together?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "It seems quite strange that both of you live together, have the same kind of complaint." He said, "That'd be interesting." So he took my partner in, and he gave him the same printout. And when he came out, he said, "I want to see you back tomorrow." My partner was a lot worse than me, but we had identical marks at the same depth inside our body, and we both had the same type of ulcer as well. My partner's health continued to deteriorate. We both were on ulcer medication, and I didn't really want to say, "Look, you've been abducted by, you've been taken by beings." I was still waiting for him to say something, and in the end I told him what I'd found out. He did seem shocked, I don't think, but I wanted to reach out for help. So there was a lot of help. I had to research on the internet for the UK. I didn't know, anyone to turn to, or, if I spoke to somebody or about it, I didn't want to sound like a complete nutter. I just wanted someone to get some help for my partner if anyone else had experienced the same thing. So I reached out to someone called Gary Heseltine. His name kept coming up, and it's the other end of the country from where I am. There was nothing really in southern England. So it took me courage for a couple of weeks, and I think I messaged or emailed Gary Heseltine from the UFO Truth magazine, and he got back to me. Gary sent me a little message back saying, "Look, I don't deal with abduction, but there's this gentleman called David Hodrin. He's the chairman of the Birmingham UFO Group. He's the, he deals with abduction cases." So he gave me his number. Again, I think I left it a couple of days or so. And I thought, do I text him? He's going to think I'm a nutter. But I thought, my partner needs the help. So I texted him, and David Hodrin phoned me back, and I spoke to him in my car for about 3 hours on the phone, and it all just seemed to come out of me. There was a need that built up inside me, and it just all spilled out. He's listened very patiently. He believed what I said, took me very seriously. and he reached out in the UFO community, and he got back to me and said that there's another gentleman that had the same type of issues, but it took him a long time to recover, but he was okay. And at the time, the doctors were telling us it was, my partner could die very shortly. But luckily, touch wood, he's come a long way. He's a lot better. And David Hosdren investigated my case. I did drawings for David, submitted evidence, hospital appointments, letters from doctors and surgeons, all my results, and my account. And it went on from there. And once David had done that, he'd released it on the Birmingham UFO group. They have a web page as well, and I think it's got over 100,000 just views just to look at my story. They have loads of other stories and contact cases on there, because he is like the David Attenborough of ufology for me. And
do you have the name of the website?
I think it is. Just Birmingham UFO group. I think it's a www one, but I think you can click on it on Facebook or just look it up on the internet.
UFO group.
Yeah, it's BUFOG, BUFOG in the UK. And yeah, and if you go into contact cases and put Southampton case, you'll see that he's done a very extensive case report, and there's pictures and drawings and all evidence. And from there, David and me, we did a joint lecture in Birmingham, and then we did a following one in Hampshire at the HUFOG, the Hampshire UFO group. And he spoke a few times on the radio about my case. And he continues to does research, brilliant lecturer. I mean, he knows everything there is to know in the field, which is why I reached out to him. And it's not until, like I said, you're older that you piece together what's happened, and you can come to your own.
What have you learned? What as this experience expanded for you? What did you learn? What was going on?
So I learned. I don't think they're the only ones doing this. I learned we can do things that they can't, which is why I think they're interested, why they're drawn to us. I mean, we only leave our bodies when we die. I think they can choose to do so at any time. They like and they're in their bodies a very long time, from what I understand. They like the water here on our planet. It's very similar to theirs, but there's something in our water that they like. They don't like our behaviour. I think they're very interested. We either do something or could do something and still can. I don't think we're aware of most of our abilities. And I think we've lost a lot of our own history and understanding of where our origins come from. They showed me like a hybrid baby. When they'd taken my DNA, they cloned me. They've given me cloned blood. I was awake during a procedure they were doing on me, and they had to give me cloned blood. And when they passed information to me, it was from a very young age. It was like a familiar fog, like a grey fog. All I remember from when I was younger was this grey mist in my head, and that's something that stuck with me all my life. And I call it like the link. It's when one of them is close to me, I get like a grey fog, like a grey mist in my head, and all I can liken it to is like a scent or perfume, but it's like a grey mist that like the blocks, kind of a little bit blocks your vision, but it's like a two-way mirror.
Can you call it, or is it just up to them to make contact?
No, I think it's like a two-way mirror. It works both ways. I mean, so when you're close to one of them, or one of them's very close to you, it's like a Wi-Fi. So the closer they are, the better the signal. So that's best I can liken it to. So if one of them's close to me, I can pick up on the link. So I'll call it the link. Till three of them, or eight or 10 are talking, I can understand them. But when there's just say 15 to 30 and they're all talking at once, it becomes a blur. It's so fast. But when you're listening to what they're telling you, they can hear you listening. But it's not only it's like all information in one go, so you can see the images of what they're saying or the symbols. But what they physically show you in their link is their history. So it's like supposing you're watching or rewinding or watching a DVD that you could step into. You could physically step into it at any point. When you step into it, you're in a bubble, and you can go anywhere at any point in that DVD, say, or in that link, and go back and see their history. So that's one of the things that kind of happened to me. But when I was first taken, when I was younger, I was about 6 years old, and all I remember was the white beam of light that came down through the ceiling and straight through the floor, and a huge face appeared in it, in the light. It was made light, it shot towards me. That was my first experience. But and then there's the like the bright orange light over me when they were testing my legs. Now, when you're taken, there's two things that happen. So people say, "Oh, you have a sleep disorder." It's oh God, I can't remember the name now. In a minute. And it's not. So if you have a sleep disorder and you're paralysed, that actually happened to me once. I lost my father as a very distressful time when I was a teenager, and sleep paralysis, that's what it's called. And I had an episode of that. Like I said, I just lost my father in a terrible way, and it was a very stressful time. And so when you have sleep paralysis, I was asleep face down on the bed. You have blurred vision, you can't open your eyes, and it's like a fear. There's somebody in the room with you, there's a presence in the room, and you have blurred vision, like someone's in the room and you can't move. But then you panic because you know you can't breathe, and you panic because you can't move. When you're taken in the light, you're paralysed, but you don't know you're paralysed, and your body doesn't panic because you don't know you can't breathe. You don't even know that you're breathing. You just look out of your eyes. You can't move your eyes. You just have a field of vision. So that's the difference. Like, you panic if you're sick, your body reacts, and you panic if you vomit. That's the same fear you get when you have sleep paralysis. When you are taken, you don't know that you can't breathe. You can't feel anything. I learned that they subdue humans through a light and a pheromone in the light. It's a certain frequency of light that subdues either the body or the brain, and the pheromone does the rest, so you can't move or react.
Tina, I have a question about I was returned one time, and I heard a by my ear and a mist on my face, and then I couldn't move, but I was totally conscious, and I've interacted with them all my life, so I wasn't really afraid. I was just kind of an observer, but I was paralyzed, and then my alarm went off. So I was conscious and couldn't move, but the alarm went off. At that point, I was able to move and shut off the alarm. Is that anything similar to what you've experienced? There's some kind of, is that what you're talking about, the misting or the spray? Now, I can't smell, so it may have had an odor, but I can't smell. So
No.
More about what they do to paralyze you.
So you probably had some kind of experience there, but I'm not like a sleep doctor. All I can speak of.
This was after they returned me. They carried me. I remembered the whole thing. They were carrying me. Yeah.
Yes, they do. They put you in a room. I think they put you in a separate room in their ship or wherever, and get ready to take you back. I think they subdue you with light. When I'm put back, I just get this feeling like you're thrown down on the bed, like you're dropped.
They always drop you from too high.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's probably what the noise is. But I think because it does, and it happens so quickly, and you can't move for a couple of seconds. Like, when your eyes bulge, and then you can move. Yeah, that's it. So your eyes bulge. I think it's like pressure, and you can't move for a couple of seconds, and then it's like you're back in the room kind of thing. I didn't feel anything on my face, and like the mist in my head is when I'm aboard their craft.
Well, maybe it was just air on my face. It was just a noise, and then I couldn't move, and it was like Anyway, I don't know. I'm trying to find your case. Do you know what your case is called on the David
Southampton. Southampton.
Say that again.
Southampton.
Okay, I'll find that. Thank you. I'm gonna let you continue. I'm sorry for the interruption. I just want to find your case.
No, that's okay. If you go to the case file, it'll be under Southampton case file or lecture event.
Southampton.
Yeah.
Do you have a special friend among the extraterrestrials that is your particular liaison or friend or one that you're close to?
It's something actually Janet said that it makes you think, twig for a second. Like for all the times I've been taken, and not all of them, I think most of the times, I think as a child it becomes familiar to you, so you're not afraid. But the times I have been either very alert, because I think they monitor you very, very closely. I was on board this craft once, and I was I like to be sat up. I don't like to be laid down flat. I don't like it. And they must have picked up that I was awake. Now, whatever they use on me doesn't work, or they allow me to move. I've never been allowed to move before, apart from this one episode, but one. And they sense when I'm awake. The second they sense that I'm awake out of the light, and your eyes are awake and you're not conscious. And you can just feel like the grey mist inside your head. When they lean over you and look at your face, when they look at your face close up, as to see if you can connect to them, if you can link with them. But this particular time, I was just laid down flat, looking up at the roof or the light, whatever you want to call it. It was very bright white light. It's hard to see, and this being, I didn't recognise it at first, just came over me from my right side, looked over my face. You know, like a dentist looks at you when he's talking to you, like just a quick look over the face. And it came from the right-hand side, down for a couple of seconds. And the second I saw him, I felt fine. I didn't feel afraid anymore. I didn't feel restless. I just felt comfortable. I don't know why. He didn't speak to me. It's just like a look. I recognised him, but I didn't know I recognised him. It's just like, I want to say, seeing a relative. I just felt very comfortable and very relaxed. I didn't feel frightened or on edge. It put me at rest, if you like. I felt it fine. So yeah, and I've seen him a couple of times. And each time I've had experience, especially when I'm older, he's been there. I'll just call him the one that knows me. He hasn't really given me a name. I don't think they're supposed to interact with you. I think it's been some kind of I'm a state, or whether they've taken me for so long, or he is the one taking me.
What is the one that feels you? What do you get from him? What does he look like? What does he feel like? What does he seem like? What is he conveying?
Okay,
is it a he?
Yes. So when I've only ever seen one female, but they don't have sex organs. So he's about 4 feet tall, like a oval, large head, larger at the back, and they have like apple pips, like the apple seed pips for the eyes. Very small, if at all, not nose, but a very tiny mouth that doesn't move. Their face doesn't move. Black eyes, and it looked glowing. I don't know why they call them greys, because when they're very close to you and under the light, they look like glowing white beings. And so in a link, I get the sense that he's very, very, very old, very, very old. But he works, if you like, or each time I've seen him, I've seen him on his own a few times, or that he works with all, like, there's little ones. I want to call them. I'll just call them like the little jelly baby ones. They're about 3 feet tall. So he's a lot
Have you
taller than
seen
he's about,
his hands? The big. Let's start with the first. What are his hands and fingers like?
thin white fingers. I couldn't really say how many he had because he's always kind of looked over me, or his hands have been down, or because he stood so close to me next to the bench I've been on. It's like when a doctor or dentist leans over you can't really see his hand. Or he's been stood just close to me, or just off to the side to me, where I've not been able to look about. And he links with 3 little ones. Now, when you're in the link, you can hear and see everyone in the link, and I don't think I'm supposed to link with them. They don't know how I do it. I can link with the one that knows me, but the little jelly baby ones, the little ones are about 3 feet tall, have more of a round head. They all look identical apart from skin tone. Tiny little bit of like a little belly on them, glowing white, and they're very cold inside because when I was doing that operation thing on my chest, and I woke up, or really awake, I was awake, and he was given like I take it as like an anatomy lecture, or teaching them something, and there was 3 little ones to my left. He was on my right, very close to the bench I was on. I was laid there, and I saw this. He was talking to them, and the second that he realised I was awake, for a few seconds, the little ones, he didn't really know that I was awake, and he was showing me images of male, what they would, their male and female symbols. And he showed me information very, very quickly. It's like a silver thread being pulled through your brain. And he was quite shocked that I understood what he was showing me, but because I understood it, he was showing it me faster. And when he did that, I couldn't take it all in. I couldn't remember what everything he was saying. And when that happened, the little ones were on like a different link to him, seemed very upset, very cold, and very black inside. And he shouldn't have been talking to me, or I should have been out of it or asleep or not conscious, and they weren't happy. So he stopped me listening to them and stopped them linking to me. I think they're angry because they can't link to anyone who's taken. They're like, they have limited Wi-Fi, if you like. That's my understanding. They have limited Wi-Fi connection. He can link to everyone on different ships, because if you go onto different craft, it's a different link, and you can feel it's a different link. And you can when they suppress the link, when they try to stop you listening in the link, it feels different as well. So you can tell when they're blocking you. So
you're using their bandwidth.
Yes. So yeah, it's like real in radio reception in your head, if you like.
So you're getting emotions from them. So they're not really flat. They have emotions, like you said. They feel angry to you.
Yes, yeah, I perceive it as anger. And I met one. I shouldn't say I've met one. They took me another time on your last show. If you remember, I spoke about the hybrid, the babies and the black pods.
Yes, a whole new network. So we can tell the stories again. And Dr. Lessin.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So
okay.
Another time when they took me. It was like the penny dropping, like the realization of what had happened was I'd wake up. It's the first time I'd ever been allowed to kind of move, if you like. I remember coming to on this little room, very small, honestly, room. It's not, you can't see corners or anything. It's just like the bright white light above you, and it's hard to judge how far you're off the floor. And I was there, and I think started to become aware, and then the one that knows me looked over and put his head over it. He was in my field of vision, and I became calm. And then it went bright white light, and they moved me to a larger area, and it was bright white light. When I was coming round, I could see more, and then I was sat up at a 30 to 45 degree angle, still on this bench. And normally I've been naked, but this time I'd had some like rag put on the front of me for some reason. The one that nosed me was to my right. And again, when you're laid down on a bed, you don't know how high or bench you are off the floor, high or low. And to my left was quite a few little beings, all having a confab, and some taller ones. There was quite a few of them to my right. And he kind of looked at me to reassure me, and I knew everything was fine. I didn't feel scared or worried. I just felt relaxed. He was definitely suppressing the link because I could feel them all pushing against the link. So they were passing information through him, or he was blocking my information. So I don't know if he thought that was going to make it easier for me to understand what they were saying, or they didn't want me listening to what they were saying. The next thing I knew, it went bright white light again, and we were in a different area. And this time, they seemed to be worried. Now, I could feel a lot more of them in the room. They seemed to be further down the left. He was on the right, and he kind of looked over me and said, "Look, you're on your own for this bit," and he stood back. Now, they were huddled together. I could just see them in my eye line to my left. I've never seen them look or feel worried. They didn't want to be near what was going to happen. And I was on my own. And it's the first time I ever felt anything before. I've never felt anything. Don't even know that I couldn't feel. But I felt, I want to say kind of hot. I'm not sure. And I could actually think. When they take you, you can't think. You could just look, and I could actually think. So I'm laid on a bigger bench, a bit longer, and they're all off to my left side, and they're huddled together. Now, I've now realised they're huddled together because they were obviously frightened. They didn't want to be near the creature or what was going to happen next. They just wanted to observe, but observe from a distance. They didn't want to be anywhere near me. And this creature, I was laid there, and like I said, just to my right, it was a movement that like caught my eye. I couldn't move my head. I was still like frozen. I could just literally like move my eyeballs in my field of vision. This thing moved like a snake movement, like an unwinding movement. That's what caught my eye. And I couldn't move my head. I could just move my eyes. And all of a sudden, this thing swung up from the bottom right-hand corner, like from this black panel. It was like cross between a snake and an octopus looking skin, bright white, and its neck must have been, just the neck bit was easy 12 to 15 feet long and about 2 foot thick, and had like a huge, I want to say diamond shaped head, but it was like it was wider than my body. It came out, swung out to the right over the top of my feet, and then it came up my body. It stopped over my stomach, and I thought I was going to die. I just thought it was going to eat me, and I just thought it was going to be the end. And this thing reared up, and its face came down. It didn't. I knew straight away it didn't want me to link with it. It had no interest in linking me whatsoever. What I got from that was it just wanted to see me with its own two eyes. It just wanted to, like a human being would want to see a dinosaur. I got the feeling it wanted to see me with its own two eyes, and had like a diamond-shaped chin. It went up, very tiny mouth, and a thin nose and a groove that went up the head, and the eyes were like giant apple seed black eyes. But as it got closer, it looked like it had like a brown lens underneath it, like round circles, like you could see like pupils. And it just hovered over my face for a couple of seconds, and it just pulled away, and it all went bright white light. I really thought I was going to die. And then when I came round again, I was back in this room. They obviously wanted to get on with what was next. They were a lot closer to me, and I'm not sure if I felt warm or not. I don't know. The one that knows me was on my left again, and he looked at me, and I could feel the others pushing, and he said if I agreed to behave, I could get up. So that's nothing that I didn't realise at the time. It was nothing that ever really happened to me before. So I said yes, I'll behave myself. All the others were stood back, and I want to say there was 8 very close to me to my right. He was on my left. And as I got up very slowly with this like rag come hospital gown on. I felt very drugged. So I'm allergic to anaesthetic. So when I have like a 3-minute anaesthetic, I get a bitter taste in my chest. I don't know why I can taste it in my chest. You could just taste it, and I could taste it in my chest. It tasted very bitter, and I felt very drugged, very slow movement, very heavy, very controlled from behind. They were all stood behind me, and I could hear them pushing against him. He was controlling everything through him. He was obviously in charge of what they were doing. As I got up, he must have been very close to me, but just behind me. I could feel his presence literally just behind me. And I'm not sure if he was controlling my movement, but they were recording. And so when you ask a question, I don't know you're asking a question or it's a feeling and they perceive it as a question. But every time I had this like feeling, he seemed to answer my question. And so people say, well, how do you know how do they talk? What do they sound like? So they use your vocabulary, I think. They use your vocabulary to communicate to you. Also show you stuff. It's very quick.
Right.
So I'm stood up there and I moved forward very slowly. I could only describe walking. I didn't have anything on my feet. It felt like brittle concrete I was walking on, but it wasn't. And I took 1 or 2 steps forward. I felt very controlled, very slow. And my vision became a lot clearer. And I saw what I can only describe in front of me as these black pods. They were 2 to 3 feet tall, about 2 feet wide, hundreds and hundreds of them in rows. As I stepped a bit closer, something caught my eye right in front of me, and this being, it was a movement behind the pods, like a white movement. It was like a different skin tone, one a darker skin tone, jelly baby, about 3 feet tall. He was so quick. He like kind of ran from behind the pods and moved in front of me and stopped. He wasn't directly in front of me. He was stood in front of the pod. Now he wasn't on my link. He didn't want to link with me. He was on their link, like the crafts link. The link I was getting was through the one that knows me. I could tell it was a different link, different like Wi-Fi system. And he perceived me as a threat straight away. I was getting anger. I was perceiving anger from him. His face didn't move. He didn't speak. I was just perceiving it like it was very angry, and it perceived me as a threat. It clearly did not want me there. I think the one that knows me ordered it to stand back because they wanted to get on with what was next, and it kind of backed away. It didn't want to move. I could tell it was not happy, and it just didn't want me there. It didn't want me anywhere near those pods. And but the one that knows me obviously had authority over it, and it stepped back. It's moved back. It didn't want to be near me. As I approached the pod,
what was in the pods? Oh, you're getting to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. So as I couldn't see. So do you remember? I don't know if a lot of people would remember. Back in the 1970s, they had like coffee glass, thick black coffee cups that looked black when you put like coffee or tea in them. It looked like shiny metal at first, but then it looked like glass with like liquid in it, like black liquid. It looked like black glass. And as I approached it, I saw a red light in there. And as I bent down very slowly to look, I could see it was a baby. It was like the baby of about 8 months along inside this liquid in this pod. And all of a sudden, because I was so close, I wanted to touch the pod. Then I realised I could hear the others. It was like because I was very close to these pods, I must have been very quite close to their Wi-Fi link, and I could hear the others. And he was obviously talking to them and talking to me, which opened up a 3-way conversation. But it wasn't 3-way. There was like I want to say like 30 of them there, all trying to speak at once, which they were doing. And one of them was saying he's going to know she's not going to hurt the pod. She's inquisitive kind of thing. And she's not going to, so they agreed to let me touch the pod. So I reached out with my right hand, with my fingers open and I just touched the top of this pod. And as I touched the top of the pod, it must have felt cool. And I must have been worried about the babies because he replied to me, no, the baby's warm. I must have asked a question. And he said, no, it's warm in there. See the red light? The right light is keeping the baby warm. And the fluid is giving the baby everything a human mother would. It's artificial embryonic fluid. And that's when I learned they can't make embryonic fluid to the same level as a human. So they either mass produce it or they get fluid from different human beings, or they clone humans or me or any other female and take embryonic fluid from them to reproduce it themselves, but they can't make it to the same standard as a human. I learned that in like a half a second or a millisecond. The information goes so quickly.
Download. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned that, and then at the second I touched the pod, it was like the floodgates opening, and now they couldn't break that. I linked with all of these pods. The second I touched this pods, and they were all females. Right. They were all female voices, hundreds and hundreds of little tiny baby female voices, and that's when I knew they freaked out. And I never heard them all panic at once. They all rushed inside my head. They were not trying to leave the link, but because the link was inside my head, I could feel them pushing and scarring it inside my head. They all rushed in at once. They were turning over everything inside my brain to try and find out how I linked. It freaked them out because they didn't know. They were trying to look for an answer, and I didn't know. I don't know. They couldn't find out what they were looking for. They were all scurrying inside. They didn't know how I could link with them and all the babies. And I knew in like half a split second, the second one of them spoke to me, that they were all female. I think they didn't know that they were all female, or if they did, not all of them knew that, or I wasn't supposed to know that, or they didn't know how I had access to that information. I don't know. I just knew that they were all female. They were only breeding females. And that kind of freaked them out, and they couldn't break the link. All these tiny female voices were talking to me. Do
you think there's something unique about you? Like, are you a hybrid yourself?
I don't know if there's anything unique about me, because I don't know. I don't know how I did it. It must have an automatic link in my brain. I don't know. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I do it. And they didn't know how I do it. No, I don't. I don't. I just presumed it because I was so close. I must be like an antenna or a tuner. I don't know. So I linked with them, and they distracted me with this light. I think they couldn't get me away from the pods. They couldn't break the connection until I took my hand off. When I took my hand off, I could look over the back of the pod, and as I looked over the back of the pod, there's these 3 black tubes. And he said that when they replaced the fluid, that's how the fluid was going in and out, and how the babies were getting nourishment, and they were being kept warm by this red light. Now, as I took my hand off, I saw this red pulse shoot on between my legs underneath the floor. And then I'm not sure, I want to say it could have been a couple of seconds or maybe a couple of minutes later, the red pulse came again very quickly. And I think they used it to distract me, because it did. And they let me follow this red pulse to get me away from the pods. And they just kind of went with it. And the one that knows me was there, and I must have asked another question. And he said, no, it's their energy. So he showed me a picture in my head, and the link, he found a picture to show me of the energy. So this red light that goes around the ship, it goes round quicker. It starts off slow and it goes really quick around the ship, and it gets bigger, like a hot ball as it goes around the ship. And he showed me a picture of like a wave, like a sound wave. And then he showed me this sound wave going to 3, like one big box, but it had 3 boxes inside it. And the wave and had a little carrier wave or another wave with it. So the sound wave went through the box like a pulse.
Hold that thought. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We're at the commercial break. We'll see you soon. Back in 5.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a 5th dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia. at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix and Revolution Radio at revolution.radio, and I'm your host, Janet Kara Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Alec Lessin and producer Thomas Becker, and guest is Tina Bird. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio and make your donation, because we really, really need your donation to bring this show and other shows, all the wonderful shows that are on Revolution Radio, to you. And I don't think a Mad Painter can hear us to tell us where we are in our fundraising.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Oh yeah. Okay. How's it going?
We need 25.50, and we got 18.14, and that leaves 7.36 we need, and we need really more than that because we had to go out and buy a new server for Studio B, and it ain't up yet. That's why we're having such problems.
Arg. Okay, please donate. Help us replace our antiquated equipment and keep current. Yes. Alrighty, so before we get back to Tina, Sasha, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to more. Tina, it's really obvious that you're an ambassador or a communicator between the societies of the Greys and the larger audience. You know what? I really wonder, and I ask this of everybody: do you have some sense of you consented to all this radical treatment, or not, or what? Where are you at about consent?
Okay, so I think with consent, you get like people that are taken. Either taken by mistake, like Travis Walton. I think they just took Travis either because they injured him or they just randomly took him by mistake. So you don't get to. Oh, I'm not sure what happened there.
Not sure.
I pushed the wrong button.
Okay. There you go. So I don't think you can give consent. I mean, because I was taken at such a young age, it just felt familiar to me. But it wasn't until I was older and someone asked me that question. I thought, well, they didn't ever really ask me. I don't think you asked if you want to be abducted. I think you have to agree to behave yourself on a craft.
Did you consent in an earlier life?
I have no idea. I have no recollection. I can only tell you my experiences in this life and my experiences so far. You know, I do feel at some point like consent and things like that. The bigger picture to that is It's like if you're a victim of crime, you get to have justice, or somebody listens to you, or you get to have counselling, or you get security, you get protection. When you're abducted or taken, you don't get security, you don't get asked, they just take you. You get no comfort because you're there, unable to move, and they're inside your body. They're taking things from you without your consent. They are removing parts of your body to create other creatures or beings. So, or they're trying to replicate vessels, other human beings, either to obtain a soul or something they can't get, or something they can. I'm not quite sure what their agenda is when they do that. Or we're just lab animals to them, or we're an endangered species to them, like we would do to like a endangered panda. We take one from the wild. We don't ask if it wants to be rescued. We take, and we clone them, or we make more pandas and release them back into the world. Perhaps that's how they see human beings. That's my understanding, probably, of how they see human beings.
Wow.
Well, one of the things that I realized along that line is that, and you have to keep going back, I guess, to previous lives and life between lives and simultaneous lives, and you eventually get to that this was an agreement, although this level of unconsciousness as a human in the human avatar, it seems to be unconscious. But I was really struck by your communicator, because I had the same thing, and I have an experience, I'm not going to go into it here, but where I was plugged in intentionally, and I connected with a large amount of beings, I'd say over 1,000, and there were several varieties of beings, and they wanted me to be the interpreter, the integrator with the information, and so that I've had that experience where you simultaneously feel and understand, and you get and it's way faster than the human level of experience. It's telepathic, and it's
I don't think I was chosen. I think they took me as a child. I mean, you're obviously they want you for a reason. I think they'll have accidentally came across me or took me as a child. But when you're older, I don't really know why I could do it. I think with me it was accidental, because I only retain information that they've shown me, or things that have happened or that I'm not supposed to remember. So whatever they use, like the light to suppress me, or the pheromone, whatever they use on humans, doesn't really seem to work on me. And I don't think they know why, and I certainly don't know why. So I think me being awake during some of these procedures is accidental. And as for like the hybrid thing, when I was connecting with the babies, I think I'm bonded to them in some way, but I'm not sure how, either on a biological level or a mental level, I don't know. But I think whatever it is I do accidentally. I'm not aware that I can do it or do it, and I don't think they are. And classic example, when they all rushed into my head.
Tina, one thing I get from just listening to you is that you have a big heart chakra, and you empathize with, and your initial encounter with beings is loving, and there's something about the kind of person you are that is maybe doing that. That's your intention is manifest your result of communication.
Could be, yeah. I mean, it could be. I think they do. I can't say that they're evil monsters, because they're not. Because there was one incident. They were inside my chest, and the little ones, the ones that can't communicate on all the Wi-Fi level, the ones that aren't supposed to talk to us or communicate with us. They obviously did something inside my chest, and when the blood was spurting out, and I had this little machine thing on the bottom of my stomach. The one that knows me stopped me seeing and hearing them. They could have quite easily left me to die and move on to the next person without even batting an eyelid. But he made them fix me. There's something they did. He made them fix me. So, yeah, they did save my life. It was something they did, whether it was unintentional. So he made them fix me. I think that there comes a point where they don't fix many people, but they fixed me. So he did it for a reason, whether he felt compassion towards me or I was compassionate towards them, I don't know.
Yes,
but,
yes.
So they do, and I think it depends on like the species. Sorry, 1 second. It depends on the species. I'm not sure if he's a different species or he's just older that he teaches other ones. But I think there's a lot more to them. They do things that we can't do, and they live for a very, very long time. But we obviously do things that they can't do. So together, we're probably a blend of a better human being, or they blend with us when they crossbreed with us to make, either better humans or better them, I think. So I'm not sure if they have the souls and can't reproduce the bodies. I don't know. But there's something definitely, there's other things that we should be looking at. It's made me think. I mean, they don't like our human behaviour, but it's made me think we don't know enough about our own history. I think looking back, watching a lot of programs about Egyptians and hieroglyphs, it definitely rings. They need to go back and revisit that. There's something about either resurrection or there is an afterlife. From what they show me, when you die, it's not the end. You go on to somewhere else. So that there is that. So that there is more. Whether we're on a different plane or a different life, or I don't know. All I know is what they've shown me. So
What did they show you? What show?
So when they was getting ready to put me back after the baby incident, I've become very upset because I twigged what they'd done. They'd cloned me, and I was very upset, and I think that frightened them. And they brought the baby over to me because they wanted to bond. And she took a picture with her eyes. So in that second she looked at me, bonded with me, she was going to show the others what I looked like. And in that picture, it had my pheromone level, hormone level, I had everything. But I was very distressed when they took her off. So they couldn't put me back. So I was in this room getting ready to be put back in this place. And to distract me, I think, because they couldn't subdue me, they showed me images on the wall. It looked like this huge, I thought it was like a cartoon strip at first. And as I got closer to it, I realised it wasn't like a movie. It was, it's their history. So I was drawn to the top right, left-hand corner, right at the top. And I must have asked a question, like, where do humans come from? Whatever the answer was, but where do we come from? I got closer to this image. It seemed to get larger on the wall, or I got closer to it, I don't know which. And then they put me in this bubble. It's going to sound really crazy. They put me in this bubble, and I was inside this image. And it was like millions of years old, hundreds of millions of years old. So everything in this link. So their link, the Wi-Fi link, the ones who telepathically communicate with humans and each other, this Wi-Fi link acts as a mental link and has like images, all their information, all their science, that has their history. So you could go back. It's like a timeline. So you could go back and forward at any point in their time, and you could find anybody or any being or anywhere they've been. And they said I was in this bubble, and they put me in this image, part of their history. And they took me to this planet. I was just in this bubble. I was outside this planet in like space, looking at this planet. And as I looked, they zoomed me in. When I say zoomed in, is like you sped in like the blink of an eye. In a split second or two, I was inside this planet and zooming along this like plateau. It wasn't like a hillside. It wasn't no real huge mountains. There's a tiny little range in the distance. And as I looked at it, I travelled so fast in like half a split second. I was at this mountain range, but it's a hilly area, like in this tiny range. And I must have been, oh God, between 6 and 12 feet off the floor. It was hard to judge, but I could see this looked like thick grass, but it wasn't. It looked like green barley, but thick like grass. And I was it was just very like swirling very gently underneath it, but I could see this figure. This figure looked like a Native American Indian man. He was naked, on top of this really beefy, chunky-looking horse, like you get in Iceland, with this thick, muscular-looking horse. And he was looking in front of him at the distance, like he was looking at something. He didn't know I was there. He didn't look in my direction at all. Didn't do anything. But as I looked to focus on what he was looking at in the distance, I was shot forward again. Went down this gully and ravine and into the water. And as we entered this water in this bubble, I could see hundreds of other bubbles with what looked like tawny yellow beings in, but they only looked like that. I think I'm not sure if it was the color of the water or what you looked like inside the bubbles in the water. And there were hundreds of them, and I must have asked another question, and he said, no, they're like scientific researchers like we would are. And they were all underneath the water doing different things, all testing different things. And he says, like, what? She wanted me to watch what was happening. So he took me down underneath the water to a deeper part, and he said, this is what happened. And he said, watch. So what happened was a being in another got too close to this, what looked like underwater volcano, and it had some magnetic reaction to this bubble that this being was in. And because they're all linked in the mist, in the Wi-Fi link, because they're all linked in the link, everyone knew in that split second that there'd been an incident. What had happened, this thing had got too close to the mantle or this underwater volcano, and it had an electrical magnetic reaction to the core of this planet or this volcano, and they had just say half an hour to evacuate. And all of a sudden there's this implosion or explosion. It looked like a grey bubble that got sucked in, but it came out on all these hundreds of tiny bubbles. And I got pulled back out of the water, pulled back to outside this planet, literally. And as that happened, all the other these grey, it was like a black cigar-shaped ships, huge ships from space. You could see them in space, and all these little orbs were rushing out of all of these ships and into this planet. And the orbs were taking like samples like air, or they're taking water, or they were taking grass and dirt and insects or anything, thousands of them rushed into the planet because they all knew instantly that this planet was going to die because of something they did. I think they lost loads of beings or entities or people, what have you, in this accident, trying to save what they could. And then all of a sudden, I got pulled back further back, and then it was like a explosion, more of an implosion, and the planet kind of ripped in half, and we just got dragged along with all this stuff, all this debris, really fast, and it got chucked forward. We got chucked forward with it, and it was so fast. We were just pushed past another planet. I'm not sure what it was. It went so fast, and then they were trying to find. He was telling me they were trying to find a planet like the one that we were on to put us in the closest planet to put us from where we came from was Earth, or presumed to be Earth. I'd never seen Earth from space at that point. And as we got thrown closer to Earth, we kind of stopped. And I thought, well, what are we waiting for? And as we stopped, all this other orbs came, and they stopped, and all this debris stuff from the planet we were on hit the Earth. You could see it going in, and we had to wait again. And it was all like hitting the planet, and we waited, and I thought, and then nothing happened. We just waited, and after all the debris hit, all these orbs were still outside, and then I think the orbs went in, and then they kind of pulled me back, and he was getting ready to put me back, and that's where we come from. I learned that this wasn't originally our planet. There must have been intelligent life here before, or a different type of life, and they put us here because of something they did. I didn't see the orbs leave our planet. They just brought things, here, and that's what he showed me. And then another time, I asked, like the babies, the clones of me on the pods, and I asked what was going to happen to the babies. And he showed me, and he put me in a bubble. Again, I felt sedated. He put me in a bubble, is the one that knows me. And we just shot, out down past Jupiter. We would get it. I could see out of a window, and I want to say it was a window. It was like panels on the wall with like a window panel, and he was walked up this like podium, and I looked out, and we seemed to be getting further away from Earth, and he said, would I want to stay with them? And it was like a split decision. You know, if I stayed with them, then I wasn't ever going to get to come back to Earth. I'll get back to what he said about that later. As I asked where the babies were going, and they put me in this bubble. We flashed past something because we slowed down by Jupiter, what looked to be Jupiter. I'd never seen this planet. It was so huge, but this what looked like a black submarine in space. That's all I could describe it, like a huge cigar. It was absolutely, it must have been the side of, at a guesstimate, like 24, 27 football fields long. As a guesstimate, this thing was so huge. It wasn't man-made. It's like a black submarine with like a grill on the front and just underneath it. And as we came underneath it, closer to it, you couldn't see the planet. You couldn't see Jupiter. This thing was so huge. And everything went bright white light. And then we were on board this, we must have been inside it. And it was like black panels. Must have been about 3 foot, 3 foot wide, the hallways. But they went on this, it must have been like corridor after corridor after corridor inside the ship. It was very dimly lit. And there was another little white being, very small one. It wasn't like the jelly baby ones, but very small. He didn't seem to be bothered about my presence at all. In fact, I think there's like 2 or 3 of them on the whole craft. And he was by this panel that lit up. He was doing something with his hands, and didn't seem bothered I was there. The one that knew me was behind me. I felt very controlled, and I stopped at this like wall panel, and it had like 3 or 4 drawers down the wall in front of me, probably about 4 feet wide. And as I raised my right hand up, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. I just came to a stop in front of the panel, and this panel seemed to open. And as this black panel opened like a drawer in the wall, the bright white light shone out inside it. So the white light had been inside the drawer, keeping the drawer lit. And as I looked down, with tiny size, about 50 pence size, petri dishes with little tiny little embryos in them. And I said to him, "What are you showing me? What have you done this?" And he said, "They're embryos. They're fertilized babies. They're tiny little embryos." He said they're all in there, and the light keeps them asleep. So they're all asleep. Light keeps the babies asleep, and they're all asleep. All the eggs on the whole ship must have been millions and millions of eggs, not all mine. Whoa. And if you think how big this ship was, and just these must have been, I'm not sure if it was these 4 drawers, 3 or 4 drawers that were mine, just full of these hundreds and hundreds of like embryos. And he said it's going to keep them, the light keeps them asleep until they get to their destination. And just before the destination, like the beings on board, wake them all up, ready to grow the pre-grown population to repopulate another planet. Yeah.
So you're getting all this information. Do you have any idea why they don't bother to explain this to most people. So you must be important on some level. Are they saying that you're somehow related to some of these children, all these children?
Well, the ones in the drawers were all my embryos. They were all my clones of me. All the ones in the drawers I could see, they were all mine. There were hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them. And I had the same thing.
There must have been thousands in the drawers. There must have been in these 4 drawers. Just the ones, if they were all mine, they were talking millions. I just got the feeling the ones in this section were all mine.
Oh, but just think, if you had to be on a planet full of yous, what if it was a whole planet full of yous? Wouldn't that be awful, or would it, what would that be like? Gosh,
I have no. All I know that they were going to grow them. Just that they're going to grow them when they get there, and I don't know what they were going to do. Repopulate the planet. So I don't know.
Well, they must like your DNA. You're important, and part of what is involved in your DNA is that you have this ability to connect, and you stood out. I mean, you were selected for this huge breeding program of millions of people that are going to colonize other worlds. Isn't that amazing?
They take him. I'm not the only one up there. I can't be the only one to remember this. I've seen hundreds of people up there.
You experienced the coherent field between you and other beings, and that's a wonderful gift, and of course they want to duplicate you.
Yeah, it's I don't know how I do it. I don't know. They don't know how I do it. But they're very quick to answer. So they're keen. If you're keen to learn or you're open to it, I think they're quite happy to show you. I mean, they took me to the destination. They showed me this map. They said that this huge ship's on a pre-planned course, because I must have asked questions because I'm very nosy. But I must have asked questions like, where is it going? And he said that the ship is on a pre-planned course, so it doesn't hit anything. But it was like being strapped to the front of a rocket in this bubble. And they shot me into this pre-planned course. They showed me. He was quite happy to show me where they were taking these the ship where the babies were going. And he showed as it went. We were going along so fast. It was like being pulled along, and they were showing me information and all these little zeros and twos. And as he shot me along this pre-planned course, it did like a roll maneuver, and I said to him, why is the course changed? And he said that they can't fly through black space. So I don't know what that is, but he said they can't through black space. And then as we slowed, and then as we slowed, it did like the program ship slowed, but it did like a round. It went around instead of going straight to the planet. It had to go around for some reason, and so we were above it looking down. And it had to do like this a certain way. It had to get to this planet a certain way. And there was a tiny planet, looked like it was dark, dimly lit, because the light was emanating from the larger planet behind. I couldn't see. This dimly lit planet was like moss green. It was giving off a moss green colour, like you'd see in the sea. It looked like moss green. And that was a smaller planet, a big one. And a bigger planet behind it looked black. But it didn't look like a round planet. It looked like the mountain with a bit chopped off of it. But because the light was so bright behind it, I couldn't see it properly. But I drew all the other bits that were floating about round it, and they said that's where they were taking the babies. And then it pulled me back on the ship. But it gave me, from what I got, it was this large black thing, this planet. It's about, I want to say 13 million years from Earth. I don't know how long that is or how far that would take us. But I had this little green planet that gave off like a green dim glow with it. And that's where they were taking the babies. But as I was going there, it was giving me all this information. It went through my head so fast, like a silver cord pulling through your head. And it had like images and numbers, but the numbers seemed to fade and it went into images, but it was all so quick. The images they were showing me, I couldn't, it was just too quick. So when you're really into it or they want to give you it happens so fast. It's hard to keep up with it.
So for some reason, they're showing you all of this. They want you to know all this.
Yeah.
They're showing you where they're taking your children.
Yep.
And do you have any inkling as to the reason they're showing you that? Do they want you to go there? And
I don't know. I just think I think it's because I genuinely probably ask because I'm very not very dominant kind of person. So I'm so nosy. Like, what are you doing that for? So I asked kind of a lot of questions, and they probably thought I was either eager to learn or nosy just to shut me up. I don't know. I just, genuine human, genuine
The
person.
other thought they may want you to come back and tell everybody, which is what you're doing.
I did at the time, no, but you do get if they want you to tell something. So, like, as I get back after they asked me if I wanted to stay with them, I said no. It was like I'd never seen anybody else walking around awake. I'd seen hundreds of people like asleep but awake, and I'd never seen any of them eat or anything. And I'm like, no, I want to be with my family. And they're like, yeah, you're very brave, and this is what's going to happen to the earth. And it was horrendous images. They showed me images of the earth in this mass explosion, like people melting. It was awful. Red stuff in the sky, like red. I'm not sure if it was heat or flames, and it was terrible. And that seemed to be above London. And like, he said, you'll die on Earth, but you are very brave, and like you'll live on through, your babies, kind of thing. And
so they were showing you an apocalypse type outcome.
Yeah. But they showed me other things as well. It's like they showed me one night the numbers that went so fast. They showed me these diagrams, and I think he was trying to explain how the future and the past will come together. But I had to remember 1359 or 1389. I think it's 1359, and it's just these 4 digits. And then I must have asked a question, and he showed me all these numbers, and I keep a pen next to my bed, and I wrote these numbers down, and I gave them to Dave, the man, David Hodred, who did my case. And it turned out to be the mass weight or something of Jupiter, but the numbers went so fast, and a year, like, whatever happened, or there was going to be a war, something was going to happen on the planet, or something started. It started last year. Whatever was going to changed last year, and there'd be a war it would start badly between 2022 and 2024, and there would be a war in 2026 and 2028, or it would go to that distance, I think. But they showed me like lines and dots and symbols. It's hard to like kind of put it all together. I keep a pen and bit of paper next to my bed, so I draw what I can remember. I kind of like bits and pieces that I remember, but it goes so very quickly. It's hard to like keep it all down.
Wow. Sasha, any comments, feedback, questions?
Well, it's of course interesting that it's always true that there's a war. That's one thing. There's always a war, but I think you're really alluding to something much bigger than a war. You're talking about a big one, if I got you right.
Yeah, for what they showed me, yeah. And like talk about when they put you in bubbles, they showed me something as well. I'm not sure where the hell I was. So one time I was in this bubble, and so the same kind of bubble they took me to this other planet in, and I was in this bubble, and I came through the ceiling. It's going to sound so crazy, and I came through the ceiling. It was in a white room. It wasn't one of their glowing white rooms. It was in like a white sterile room, and it had like a rail around the top. And as I looked down, it had like a dead buffalo with like a leg missing. And the creature wasn't moving. There wasn't blood anywhere. It was just there. And as I came, it looked like cameras going down into the room. There was nothing there, but it had 2 doors on it. And I'd never seen doors before because on their craft. And but this did. So the bubble went through the doors, and as I went through the doors, it was like a corridor, like a concrete corridor. Didn't have any windows on, long corridor. Couldn't tell. There's no daylight emanating from nowhere. I went down this corridor through the ceiling, so not walking. I was still in a bubble. And all of a sudden, I saw this man, a human being, had a white kind of coat on. And he's walking down the corridor and he stopped. And as he stopped, he turned. I thought, shit, can he see me? And as he turned around, I saw his name badge, and the name said David Bue, B-U-E. And they pulled me backwards like they did before, out of the bubble and backwards through the floor very quickly. And I thought, there's no way he could have seen me. But I got the name of his name badge. And when I put the name into Facebook and the internet, no person exists who's called David Bue. So I'm not sure why they showed me that.
Wow.
There's like loads of other little bits and pieces of stuff, and that's not their true form. They choose to be in that form as well. So we leave our bodies when I die, but they choose to be in that form. However, they're in that form. That's not their true form as well. And they told me once the others were coming a few years ago, and quite a few years ago now, they said the others will come and they come and take people, but they're not supposed to be here, but they do. And I said, why are they coming? He said, we're leaving soon, so when we leave, they'll come. And and they warned me about that. And I think being taken all your life, I mean, they're mainly just bits and pieces and glimpses of things that have happened to me over the years. And it doesn't all happen to you at once. I mean, you get like realization. I mean, I went to, for me as well, I always get the flying, like you either dream of flying or it feels like you're going up. And one day I was due to get my passport done quite a few years ago, back in 2002. And after one of these episodes, like the bright white light, I remember seeing the white light, the grey mist, and I got up in the morning and it kind of dissolves through, when a couple of seconds when you wake up or you get on with your day and your life takes over. And I went with my mum to the post office at Bitton in Southampton to get my photograph taken for my passport.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the booth, put my money in, get my passport pictures done. So I'm wandering around the post office waiting for the machine to develop the pictures ready to come out. And all of a sudden my mum goes, oh my God. And the whole shop kind of looks at her. And I go to her, I said, Mum, what's the matter? She said, look, she grabbed the pictures and I'm like, what? And there's like thick black marks at the bottom of my neck, right at the base of my neck that go round my neck. And she's pulling my hair back saying, I can't see nothing. My skin, so if you looked at my skin, you just see my neck, it would look white. There's no marks or no nothing. And she said, there's something wrong with that machine. There's something wrong with that machine. We go to Woolston. So we got in a car, drove to Woolston, about a mile away. And they had a Woolworths shop. And we went into Woolworths and they had a photographic machine. I went in there, put my money in again, had my photographs redone for my passport. And a few minutes later, they came out exactly the same with this this black mark around the bottom of my neck. So my mum goes, no. So I think it was that day or the next morning, I went to see my doctor. My mum took me down to see my GP. And when I went into the doctor's, I went in and he looked at me and said, Tina, what can I do for you? And I said, I explained my story. I went and had my photograph taken for my passport. And this, he tried to dismiss it. I put the photographs in front of him and he wouldn't touch them. He kind of pushed them back towards me. And he's like, no, can't take, that's not evidence of anything. And I said, yeah, well, I had these done at Bitton. And so he goes, the machine's broken. I said, my mum said that. And but I went to Woolston and had these taken in a different machine. And I laid the other photographs down in front of him. So there's 8 photographs in total because they're in block of 4. And he didn't know what to say. And then he took me more seriously. And then he looked in my eyes, in my mouth, in my ears, in my neck. He pushed underneath my arms, my shoulders, looked in my eyes, in my throat. He said, does anything hurt? I'm like, no, I've got a bit of sore throat. That's it. He said, well, I can't send you to A&E, hospital. on the basis of photographs. He said, if you telling me you was having head or neck pain, then I'd send you to hospital. He said, after a minute of looking at the photographs, he said, go back in 5 days' time to the photo booth, have your photos taken again. He said, if the bruising has significantly reduced, you know that you've had a serious incident. And he said, what that is, I don't know. He said, but you would know that you've had a serious incident and it's getting better. If you go back in 5 days and it's still black, come back and we'll have to look at, we'll have to try and look at a different field. He said, but I can tell you now that certain bruising only shows up under certain light spectrums. He said, you probably have other bruising on your body. He said that wouldn't show up under normal light. I thought, well, I'm not going to go and stand naked in a photo booth in the middle of the high street. So I did. So I had to wait 5 days. So I went back, had the pictures taken again, and the bruising had significantly reduced, but not enough to send my photographs back to get my passport done. I had to wait a few more weeks, and I wore a thick, long jumper. But you could see that the bruising had significantly gone down, which means that I had bruising from the episode where they yanked me back on the bed. As another episode. So, want to say that's evidence or not, is, you can't get bruising like that if you didn't even know. I didn't even know I had bruising around my neck. So those photographs are also included in an online report with David Hodrum. And another time they took me, I was on like this travelator coat hanger, like a wire coat hanger thing hanging from the ceiling. I call it like a travelator. And it must have saved me for a couple of seconds because I was hanging. I didn't realise I was hanging out on this travelator with other people. It's like a huge bright white light searchlight, and it saved me for a couple of seconds. I was stunned. I couldn't think. I couldn't blink. And as I came out of this light, I could see it was like scaffolding behind this bright white searchlight. And I could see these they look black little beings because the bright white light in front of me was so bright white light. And it wasn't until it moved to the left sideways a few seconds later that I realised that it was moving. I was moving, and I could get the light became more significantly reduced, and I could see what was going on. And then as it moved along again, it turned slightly to the left, and as it turned, I could see hundreds of other people hung up but asleep. They're awake but asleep. All on this travelator thing, and they're all hung up with this steel, look like shiny steel metal coming down from this travelator down under like a back with like a Y-shaped fish hook down the back of the neck stem and underneath the armpits, hanging us up like on wire coat hangers. And as it turned, I saw this gentleman next to me with short cut brown hair, pale skin, with like a silvery suit on, with a white shirt, and his mid-40s. I couldn't see his face full on because as he turned, I turned. I could only get a glimpse, and that's when I could see all the other people hung up. There were hundreds of people with like all day clothes on, all hanging up. All their eyes were awake, open, but they were asleep. And then as we moved along again, I could see down to this pit, so we must have been, off the floor quite a bit, because you could see this like work room, and there was like work panels going back in this like cockpit thing. There was hundreds of beings there, all at different panels doing something. They were all these panels. They were stood behind the panels. The panels looked black, and they looked to be flashing lights because the lights shone on their skin, and that's how you could say they were like different coloured lights that were flashing. And they were doing stuff, and the one that knows me was very close to me, and then I don't think he expected me to be there, but they had, what I learned from that episode is they put a pheromone in front of the light, and that's when the light suppresses you. This spotlight was about 8 to 10 feet across, with bright white light coming out of it, and it had a black box on it. As I moved along, I could see down, and my eyes were open, but they were frozen open, but my viewpoint was like forward. And the one that I could see, I could focus on, was a grey. I think if you focus on him, you connect to him. So it was the one that knew me. He didn't look up at me. I think he was observing me to see what I was doing But the other three he was teaching, the little jelly baby ones that were with him, physically stopped what they were doing to look at him. He'd obviously stopped communicating with them because he was communicating with me quietly. And I could see a dark area like a control room because it wasn't so bright for me looking down. There was a main floor with like a walkway down the middle, and to the left at the back were two I got the feeling they were very, very, very old beings. They had like giant sprout heads. Their head was so large, they were at the back with very small bodies, tiny, very thin legs, and they were stood so close together, but they were watching them, or they were all away from everyone. All the little white beams were like near the front panels, doing stuff. And
where were you? Were you on a ship or on a planet? Where do you think you were when you were seeing all this?
It must have been on some kind of huge ship. We weren't on a planet. We were on some huge ship.
Uh-huh.
So,
and when they're showing these things, do they communicate anything to you?
Not at that time. I was actually physically hung up there, so I was looking down.
Oh, you were hung up with everybody else?
I was hung up with them as well, yeah. So I learned.
What did that feel like, being hung up? Did you have any sensations in your body?
No. I felt, remember what I said before, if they're directly cooperating with you, they that's when you can feel things, or you got to agree to get up, to them to let you move. When they take you, you can't feel anything. You're numb. You don't even know that you can't think. You can only look. You can't ask questions. You can't do anything because you're not connected.
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't do anything.
Like turned off.
Yeah. But you could. It's like you were watching telly silently. So I was watching everything that was going on, and the grey one connected with me. And the second he did that, he was observing me. He was trying not to draw the attention of the others. But one of the ones working at the panel behind him twigged that I was awake. He freaked out, and again I got a sense of he was very upset and very angry. His face didn't show, his face didn't move. He was a slightly different skin tone, and he ran down the front so quick, and he jumped up and touched me in the middle of my forehead. And I think,
oh, that's where they turn you off.
Yeah. And then as he did that, the one that knows me was trying to stop him. He physically was trying to stop him. He was so quick. As he jumped right up in the air to touch my forehead, he was trying to explain to the others in the link that I was from a very old bloodline. He said they thought was extinct on this planet. They didn't think existed anymore on this planet.
Okay.
So when they take me deliberately for these experiments or whatever they do, but they also take people at random. So I think I got picked up again by a different group.
Another contacting experiencer, I think it was a secret space program person, said that they're looking for the metagene. So they combined all our DNAs from all these species for billions of years, and so this is the end of a genetic experiment. And this metagene, it's like the individual has enhanced abilities, certain abilities they're looking for. So that makes sense what you're saying, that they thought that this bloodline was extinct from here. But apparently there's like a hunt out for people that have this metagene, and they're also trying to recreate it.
Yeah. So that's probably why they cloned it. But when they cloned me, it wasn't just biologically me on my own. They cloned me with them.
Right.
So biologically, it was all me, but it was them inside, and she had their black eyes. It was me. It was me as a baby. It was my clone. It was a clone of me. It was female. It was me. It looked like me, but she had very, very pink skin, lots of black hair, very pink skin, and she was them inside. But yeah, they said that, and he was trying to tell them that, and he put an image of a giant black spider in my head so I'd forget. But as he did that, because whatever they use doesn't work properly on me, and I forget everything. It kind of melts away, but everything I'd seen and remembered didn't melt away, if that makes sense. I was trying to hold on to my memory. So I learned, they did that. So I think they take, like he said, they take people like that. But on that note, I'm O rhesus negative. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I just thought if you row, I thought AB was there. But I had an ectopic pregnancy when I was younger, and I had to have the anti-D shot, and I didn't know what that anti-D was. And I didn't even know what O rhesus negative was. And it wasn't until I had a second ectopic pregnancy, and they're like, oh, I didn't even realise that because I had O rhesus negative blood, everyone on 95% of the whole planet they're all positive. There wasn't any negative blood for negative of blood only rose the last few thousand years. Nobody knows where it came from. Now I don't have any antigens in my blood. People who have positive rhesus means it comes from rhesus macaque monkeys, like this a cell. I don't have that cell. 95% of the human race have rhesus macaque monkeys or whatever it was tested on to find out. I don't have that. So because I'm O rhesus negative, it means that my husband, my first and second husband, were O rhesus positive. So I just kept having miscarriages. So my body was killing the babies I was having because I didn't realise that. I didn't even know what my body was doing. I didn't know that. And I wasn't until I had ectopic pregnancy and I had to have an anti-D shot. And I'm like, what are you giving me? And they're like, it's made up of bone marrow DNA from someone who has O rhesus negative blood. And I'm like, what does that mean? I can't give you positive blood or bone marrow because you're O rhesus negative. We don't know where it comes from. And this is it. I'm like, well, I could give blood to anyone on the planet, but nobody could give me blood because it would probably kill me.
So that's interesting because they said that we thought that was eradicated. So I don't think it's necessarily just the rhesus negative blood, but it must be an additional factor. But there's plenty of rhesus negative people on this planet, and they've taken a wide sample of humans on board, for their experimentation. I see that we have about 3 minutes left, I think. Sasha, any comments or questions?
No, but it's really important to avoid erythroblastosis fœtalis. That is, if you're going to have a baby, you've got to have your blood checked to make sure it's okay. Because after the first baby is usually okay, but the second one, your body has will kill the blood of the infant. Because it looks like foreign, but they have with modern things of pumping new blood into the baby, then giving it its own blood as soon as it's out. It's certainly handleable.
But I couldn't, unfortunately, because of my problems, and I had a lot of gynecological problems. I had to have a hysterectomy, and with my hysterectomy, when they opened me up, they found loads of black membrane. And that's on my report, on my medical report, on my file with David Hodgren, that it was stuck. This in my pelvis inside was completely obliterated with about 1,000 what looked like needle marks all the way across my pelvis.
Wow!
And they managed to get as much of this black membrane stuff out of my pelvis as possible when I had my hysterectomy. They never told me what it was, and she said, my surgeon said, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. It's even documented on my discharge notes from the hospital from my surgery that my pelvis on the inside has been completely obliterated with adhesions straight across, just like someone stabbed me with 1,000 needles all the way across my pelvis. So that's something to think about, the damage that you are taking.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Well, I wonder. See, they didn't let me have any live births, and I think it's
no, I didn't. I've got no living children biologically.
I've known, same thing. So it's like when they have one that's one of their breeders that they want for their program, they don't let you have live births.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's seems to be a pattern with some of us. Although there are some that are in the abductees that have children, of course. But it's a certain category. And I too got that information that I have lots of children like you did. So I don't know. I've only seen a couple. So you saw your children, some of them. You saw that whole room of the children. But did you have the experience where they have you hold them and try to...
Yeah, the bonding. Yeah. They didn't hold them up next to me. Yeah, they held them really close next to me.
Wow. Well, what would you like to tell us before I get into the music and second now? Your website or any way to reach you?
Yeah, so I run a blog called the Hive Initiative, or the Hive Group. That's to help abductees if they would like help or to report or support that work, then go there on Facebook and they can ask me any question at any time.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at buyer risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war.